thank you for joining us for Tiramisu with Bill the Baker. I'm Jamie, the Adult Program Coordinator at the Deerfield Public Library, and I am very excited, as I said, to welcome Bill back. Tiramisu is like one of my favorite things, so I'm just very excited. But so he has been baking for over 40 years and is an active member of the Bread Bakers Guild of America. And as I said, due to popular demand, he is returning to us after a wonderful biscotti class, which took place virtually in December.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to my kitchen. My name is Bill Reichman, and I teach the online classes using the name Bill the Baker. Tonight, we're going to be making tiramisu. There's not a lot of science involved in tiramisu. I say that because when I teach my classes, I try to acquaint you with the science of baking, because it's my belief that baking is very much a science. And the more that you understand that science, the more in control you are of the product and the process, and certainly the quality of what you're making. But tonight's class, there is not a lot of science. In fact, there's no baking at all to making tiramisu. I can't tell if anybody's baking along with me, so if I go too fast, you'll just have to tell me to slow down. I always suggest starting a bake by reading the recipe first. Make sure that you understand all of the instructions that you're being asked to do. Make sure that you have all of the correct ingredients, with the emphasis on the word correct, and that you have all the tools that you're going to need. Baking is not like making soup, where you can start and stop. When you start the baking process, you have to go from beginning to end with no interruptions. So by taking those few precautions, you can make sure that you have all the correct ingredients, that you understand what you need to do, and that you have all the tools that you're going to be using. The next thing that I suggest you do is to pre-measure everything out. I do not speak French, but I believe the term for this is mise en place, which means having everything in its place. I have, for my liquid ingredients, I have my coffee that's been measured out. I have the sugar added to it, and I have the 3 liqueurs. And then for the rest of the filling, I have my heavy cream that I'm taking out of the refrigerator now. I wanted to keep it cool. I have my mascarpone cheese. I have my egg yolks, my sugar, and my vanilla. I'm going to start this process by putting the heavy cream into my stand mixer. That is 1 quart of heavy cream. So that's my heavy cream. I'm going to add the mascarpone. This is 16 ounces. What I'm going to do is mute everybody to start. This way you'll only hear my voice. If you need to ask a question, you'll have to unmute your screen. So I'm adding the mascarpone to the heavy cream. Clear some of this out of my workspace. I'm going to add the sugar.
Okay. How much is 1/3 of a cup divided in 2? I'm making half the recipe.
Okay, then do you have a calculator there?
No.
Let me get a calculator.
Well, it's 2.7 ounces.
Teaspoons. It's 8 teaspoons.
Thank you very teaspoons, not tablespoons.
It's 8 teaspoons.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Adding my 2 egg yolks. And I'm adding my vanilla extract. Then I'm going to do one last check around my workspace. I should have no containers that have ingredients that have been pre-measured. Everything should be in the mixer or in the cup with my coffee. I'm going to turn the mixer on. I'm using the whisk attachment. I'm going to turn the mixer on to slow speed, and I'm going to mix them for about a minute or two to get the ingredients to incorporate. I'm just going to turn that off now. I'm going to give the sugar time to dissolve. And I'm going to give the ingredients time to equalize in temperature before I start whipping the cream. What I'm going to do in the meantime is I'm going to prepare my pan with the first layer of Ladyfingers. I suggest using an 8 by 13 inch aluminum pan. The reason I suggest the aluminum pan is tomorrow, because you won't be able to eat this tiramisu until tomorrow. Tomorrow, when it's time to serve the tiramisu, if this was a sturdy, fixed pan, reusable pan, getting the first 1 or 2 slices out of the pan is almost impossible without destroying those first 1 or 2 slices. When it finally gets put on the plate, it looks like it was put there with a crane, and it's a big mess. If you use this disposable pan tomorrow, you can cut straight down through the ends on one short side, and this short side will fold open, exposing the entire side of the tiramisu. I can then cut it and very easily put a spatula underneath and lift those first 1 or 2 slices out, and it comes out perfect. No destruction to that slice at all. So that's why I recommend the disposable pan. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how I put the Ladyfingers in the pan. And I do it this way because I am intentionally trying to get the Ladyfingers to be tight in the pan, because I want them to hold themselves in place when I start putting the filling on top. And you'll see what I'm talking about when we get to putting the filling on. So let's get these into the pan first, and then I'll show you what I do to get them to be tight. So the first thing you can see is that they don't fit into the corners because the corners are rounded more severely than the Ladyfingers are. So by cutting off a piece of the corner, I can get that Ladyfinger to be much tighter up against the corner. When I get to the other side, I will do the same. And if it's too wide, and it turns out it's not too wide tonight, that's just a little bit too wide. I'm gonna just cut one little tiny piece off. Okay, so I have that first row, first half of the row in there tight. And now when I go to put in the next half of that same row, the ladyfingers are too long and they need to be trimmed lengthwise. A little bit more. There we go. So I'm going to keep trimming these down. Until I get that entire row in place. Almost there.
Out of curiosity, why do you put the cut side of the ladyfingers to the outside of the pan?
No reason. I'm just picking them up and laying them down, and the cut sides all came out in that direction, but there was no reason that they had to be that way.
Thank you.
Okay.
I wasn't able to get the hard ladyfingers, so I just bought the soft ones. Is mine going to fail?
It's not going to fail. It may not be as pretty on the plate when you serve it.
Oh, I don't care about pretty.
Okay.
I just care about taste.
It should taste fine. Okay, so I have these as tight as I can get them in the bottom of the pan. And I'll wait a few minutes because some of you may not have been able to get yours in place as fast as I did. So let's just wait a minute.
And Bill, Nana's asking, where do you get the hard ladyfingers?
I purchased these at Caputo's.
Okay.
And I've purchased them at a number of Caputo stores. So I know it's in multiple stores.
Okay.
And Jamie, it looks like people are submitting questions through the chat.
That was just the one that I saw. One was my comment, and that was, yeah. So she got her question answered. So I don't see any more right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do next is I have my 2 cups of liqueurs, coffee, and sugar. And I'm going to try to very carefully pour 1 cup over the tops of the cookies. I'm going to try to cover the entire surface of the cookie. You don't have to worry if you're missing a spot because they'll get straightened out tonight. Apologize for that interruption. Sorry about that. The house phone is part of this computer. So I'm just trying to carefully pour 1/2 of the liquid, in my case, that's 1 cup, as evenly as I can over the surface of the cookies. And as I said, if I miss the spot, I'm not too worried about it because tonight when this sits in the refrigerator, the cookies will redistribute that liquid for you. I am there now. I've used 1 cup. So what I have to do now is go back to the mixer and whip this whipped cream and mascarpone until it's real stiff. I'm going to cover my mixer with a towel, a clean dish towel. I also have the splash guard on the mixer. And I'm doing this because the mixer, as it starts to whip that cream, it tends to throw the cream up pretty high. So I'm going to turn it on now and I'm going to whip it until I see stiff peaks.
So Bill, if you're talking, we're unable to hear you. Would you be able to hit your unmute real quick?
Okay, I was not talking.
Okay.
I just have it on mute because of the mixer.
Oh, because it was so loud. Okay. Good.
It's so loud. It's starting to thicken up in the bowl of the mixer. I'm going to let it run a little bit longer to get it a little thicker, and then I'm going to scrape the sides and bottom of the mixer bowl down to make sure I get the cream evenly distributed in the bowl, and then I'm going to turn it back on again. So I'm going to turn the mixer on now. I'm going to bring this camera over so you can see what's going on in the bowl. You'll see that the inside, right where the whisk is, it's very stiff, and then along the sides, it's much softer. So in order for us to get this whipped evenly, we're going to fold it a few times to get that softer cream distributed throughout the thicker cream. And we're going to run the mixer again because we want this to be very thick. Let's just see how thick it is now. I think we need it to be just a little bit thicker than this. Make sure you, if you're making this at home now, make sure you get that cream to be real thick. I think we've got it now. So let me get this camera back where it was. And I'm going to show you how to put the cream filling in. Things you want to be very careful of at this point, when you're putting the cream filling in, you want to make sure that you never lift whatever you're using to put the cream in. If it's a spoon or a spatula, you don't want to have the spoon touching the cream or the spatula touching the cream and then lift the spatula or spoon up. You want to drag it all the way across to the side and then wipe it off on the side of the pan. If you lift it up, there's a good chance you're going to lift up the ladyfingers, and it's going to ruin that nice layer, even layer of ladyfingers that you've put down. I'm going to put half of this cream in here. Of course, I'm going to have to guess at what is a half. And now, as I said, as you start spreading this out, don't push down and then lift up. You push down, go all the way over to the side and wipe it up the side of the bowl or the pan. And that way you'll leave the ladyfingers intact in that nice even layer that you put down. Remember, never lift up. Always wipe across with pressure going down. And now that you have that solid cream surface there, you have a little more flexibility in how you can lift up the spatula or spoon. So I have 1/2 of my cream filling, and now I'm going to put this next layer of ladyfingers on. Because we're up higher in the pan, I should not have to cut to get 2 of them in. And I'm going to push these down into the cream about halfway. So that will hold them in place when I apply the next layer.
Bill, we do have a question in the chat. Someone is asking, what kind of coffee did you use?
I used a strong Starbucks coffee, not a decaf, not a light blend. Is that the answer they were looking for?
I'm not sure. She hasn't responded yet, but would that be like an espresso coffee or just something really dark?
I just used dark coffee. You could certainly make this with an espresso. You can make it with a decaf coffee if caffeine is a problem. So remember, I'm pushing these Ladyfingers down so that they're about halfway into the cream. And I will trim the ends so that I can fit something right up to the end.
While Bill is finishing that part up, if you joined us a little bit late, I wanted to let everyone know that yes, this is being recorded, and it will probably be up on our YouTube channel sometime tomorrow or Monday. So if you did join us late and you're missing something, feel free to refer to that. I'll be sending out an email to everyone with that link.
I have just 2 more to go. So I've applied my second layer of Ladyfingers. And now I'm going to carefully pour on the coffee again, trying to cover all of the Ladyfinger. It may, when you see it, all this coffee with the cream under it, it may look like there's too much coffee being applied, but I can assure you that the Ladyfingers will do a very nice job tonight of absorbing all that liquid back up. And there'll be no liquid inside of the tiramisu tomorrow. Just trying to make sure I didn't leave any spots without coffee if I still have some to pour. Almost done. Yeah. I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually coffee visible floating around on the cream. And as I said, that will all get absorbed tonight when it's sitting in the refrigerator. So I'm going to wait a minute in case, again, if you're not caught up to where I am. I'm just going to clean up my work area a little bit. This would be a good time if there's any unanswered questions.
I don't see any questions right now in the chat, but everyone feel free to put those in and we'll get those answered.
Okay, I'm going to continue now. And I'm going to take the second half of that cream. I have the same concern now with the second half of the cream, in that I do not want to push down with a spatula or a spoon and lift up while I'm over the top of the ladyfingers. Because if I do, there's a real good chance I'm going to pull that ladyfinger up and never be able to get it back in place.
So Karen is asking, we kind of had this question earlier in the program, but does the recipe scale down? This makes a lot of tiramisu, but of course, Karen, that's okay. You don't have to share very much. Right now, we're not having large gatherings.
You can cut it in half and use an 8x8 pan instead of the 8x13. Just cut everything else in half. Follow the same instructions and it produces an 8x8 tiramisu.
Okay. So if you are left over with way too much, can you put it in the freezer? Does it freeze well?
I've never tried freezing tiramisu. I have very happy neighbors. So I truly never, I do know this, the tiramisu will stay in your refrigerator covered. You could have it in there for at least a week.
Okay, that's good to know.
And it'll be just as good on day 7 as it is on day 1.
Okay.
I'm just going to clean up this surface, try to get it a little more even.
So if you're trying to refrain from alcohol, is there anything that you recommend in replace of that?
You can, I'm sure you can use extracts, but some extracts, you have to be careful. Some extracts have alcohol in them. So use the, read the label on the extract carefully. For instance, mint. I know for a fact that mint extract is loaded with alcohol. As a matter of fact, there's so much alcohol in it, if you measure it out too early in the class, by the time you go to use it, it's gone. Now, the last thing to do, my recommendation is for you to do it tomorrow rather than tonight. And that is to dust it with cocoa. Because if you dust it with cocoa tonight and then mishandle it, you end up with the marks showing up in the cocoa. But because I know what I have to do and what I don't have to, what I can't do, I'm going to dust mine tonight so that you can see how I apply the cocoa. What I'm doing now is I'm just lifting these edges of the pan up a little bit so that I'm protecting the surface. And the way in which I protect the surface in the refrigerator is I put another 9x13 pan directly over the top and just rest it on top. But let me get the cocoa and show you how I apply the cocoa. And that'll give those of you that are making this with me, it'll give you a chance to get caught up.
Well, Bill is getting that. I'm just going to do a little plug for a program that we have next week. This will kind of cancel out today's if you have to eat all your tiramisu by yourself. We're doing the Blue Zone and the Secrets of Longevity. This is going to be really engaging discussion about an amazing diet and lifestyle, the healthiest people on earth in Italy. So don't miss that one. That's April 14th at 6:30.
So here's how I apply the cocoa. I'm putting it in a fine wire mesh strainer, and I'm tapping very, very lightly and let it snow very lightly. And I'm going to show you what I mean about protecting it. You see how it's nice here? And if tonight or tomorrow you hit it in the refrigerator, you end up with that mark, just like that. I'll make sure that's the piece my wife or I eat tomorrow.
Marlene would like to know, how else can you cover it up if you're not using another foil pan?
You can tent aluminum foil over the top. I've used wooden skewers that I've broken. Let me just get you one and I'll show you what I mean. You can try this with a toothpick. The toothpick, of course, may not hold up as well, but if I measure the height, I have this all the way down on the bottom of the board, and I'm going to mark it so that it's about 2 inches above. If I put these periodically across the surface, I don't know if you can see what I just did there, that toothpick sticking up. Then I can lay aluminum foil over it and tent it, and that will protect the surface as well.
That's a good tip. Karen is also wondering, can you use a flour sifter for the cocoa?
Sure. Just be careful because it comes out pretty fast. Mm-hmm. If you were to use the sifter, I would suggest you just tapping the sifter on the side with your hand, like this, instead of turning the blade or squeezing the handle on your sifter.
Do you have to cover the tiramisu in your fridge overnight, or can you leave it in the fridge just open?
I've never left it in the fridge open, to be honest with you. It would dry out a little bit more, but there's so much liquid in here, you probably would be able to leave it in the refrigerator for at least one night uncovered. But if you're going to plan on keeping this in your refrigerator for a couple of days, then I would definitely try to get it covered.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So that's it. That's how I make tiramisu. You'll be amazed at how good it is. There's no baking involved. If you didn't have me talking, you would probably get this done in about 10 minutes. And you've got a delicious dessert for yourself and your family.
And we don't have to worry about that raw egg yolk in there?
Do you have to worry about the egg yolk?
Yeah.
No. That egg yolk will be fine in the refrigerator all week.
Okay. Or just eating it without cooking?
No, and if that is a concern to you, I've made it without the egg yolk before. And if I didn't tell you that the egg yolk was there, you wouldn't know.
Okay.
You can also buy pasteurized eggs.
Oh, yes. Right.
That's correct.
I totally didn't think about that.
I've been making it this way for, I'm going to guess 12 years now. And I've not had a problem in 12 years. So.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Oh, I do. I I did do a substitution. I could not find, well, the Frangelico, and I used amaretto.
Okay.
Am I going to be very disappointed?
No, not at all. Do you like amaretto?
Well, yeah, it's okay. But,
It's none of those liqueurs are going to stand out by themselves.
Okay. All right. Because, I may not make this again. And that was like a really big ticket item to try and buy to make this recipe. So,
right. That was why I suggested using those airline bottles.
Well, I tried. I couldn't find them. Well, I found 2 of them. So.
Our Jewel is now selling airline bottles.
Well, mine does too, but they don't carry Kahlua or Grand Marnier or Frangelico. It's all vodkas and other things. So,
right.
You
may have found them in Binny's.
You know what? I was at Binny's.
Okay.
My next thought would have been Woodman's, because sometimes they have odd things, but that's why I substituted, and I'm just hoping that it will work out well. So
honestly, I don't think you're going to know the difference.
I think looks really great, and I'm looking forward to it on Saturday night. Thank you.
You will not be disappointed, I'm sure. Don't forget, when you're going to serve it, you're going to take a scissor and go straight down this corner.
Yep.
And cut the corner, the 2 short corners, just cut it, and this side will lay down and expose that entire tiramisu. And it's
I made 2 of them. I made 2 little ones.
I see a gentleman holding one up with a pan covering it.
That would be me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said a gentleman. The screen is so small. All I see is tiny little pictures.
I know. Thank you so much. It was really great. Have a good night. I appreciate it. Thank you, Deerfield Library.
All right, thank you. So I think you pretty much just answered Karen's question. Do you have any tips for cutting and serving to make it look pretty?
Yeah, if you cut those corners out and lay the side down, that first piece will come out in perfect shape.
Nice. I like that tip.
It'll look like it was cut with a razor blade.
Nice. And Beth wanted to know, can you use hazelnut coffee in place of Frangelico?
You could, sure.
Okay.
And that you could use that instead of the liqueurs, just work with flavored coffees.
Nice. Diana wanted to say, I'm not making this tonight, but can't wait to try this recipe over the weekend. Yes. And the nice thing about making it tonight too, is you will have it for the weekend. It'll be ready. When's the earliest if you just can't wait until,
you really need to let it go overnight. You can have it for breakfast tomorrow, but
okay.
It has to go overnight. The Ladyfingers need to absorb that liquid.
Okay.
And the other thing in terms of serving, I've served it with some raspberries on the side or some sliced strawberries on the side. It's a very attractive plate.
That sounds good. Okay. I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Okay.
And it sounds like she did find something at Binny's.
One thing that I did not mention, I can be reached through a website called billthebaker.com. So if you have any questions, you can reach me through that website. That website does have a lot of my recipes on it already, and I continue to post more. And next week, I hope, if not the week after, I will start blogging on it. So there'll be
nice.
There'll be instructions for you to follow as well.
Very cool. Do you have anything coming up that you're excited about at other libraries? We can promote their programs too if you have something.
I have, this was the second of 5 library presentations this month. I have scones coming up. I have biscottis coming up. And I believe I'm doing bagels again, but I off the top of my head, I do not know what libraries they are. But if you are interested, you can send me an email through that website and I'll be happy to point you to those classes.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure it's bagels, biscottis, and scones.
Sounds good. And you said last night at your bagel class, you had 155 people in attendance, yes, which is amazing.
155. I don't know if that's a record, but it's certainly a record for me.
That would be a record for us. Marlene would like to know, what is your favorite dessert?
Boy, I answer that question the same way I answer what is my favorite bread and what is my favorite cake. I don't have a favorite dessert. I have things that I think go real well with other things. So, for instance, last night, or yesterday, I should say, I made some eclairs and found out that that's a wonderful dessert with shish kebab.
Oh, nice.
So the next time I make shish kebab, I will probably make some eclairs to go with it. So I have different items that I like to pair with different things.
Do you have any suggestions for the tiramisu?
No. It's a universal dessert as far as I am concerned.
Okay, so anything goes.
I typically find it in Italian restaurants, so the world must think it goes well with Italian food. But I think it would go well with Polish food, German food. I like tiramisu. I really like tiramisu.
I think it would just go well by itself.
Absolutely.
And Karen wanted to know, do you boil your bagels?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. Arlington Heights recorded that video last night, and I think it's on their website. It's not there now. It will be there shortly. And it was an hour long, and it covered from mixing to taking it out of the oven, taking the bagels out of the oven.
Okay. Nice. All right. Well, I think everyone's going to have a hard time waiting until tomorrow, but
I know you have to be patient.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat. We'll have to do this again, and maybe next time, maybe we would be in person. We'll see.
We can only hope, Jamie.
We can only hope. That's right. But these are great. I think a lot of people have enjoyed these programs that they can follow along at home in their own kitchen with their own ingredients. So thank you for everyone who joined us and had lots of questions and cooked along with us. Hopefully we will see you at a future program.